So today we have you on to really talk about how you became the Goliath that you are. I heard this crazy story that you are the first person to Billboard for attorneys. Is that right?
That's right.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's
And I'm the
crazy.
first. I was the first person to do. I sold Yellow Pages before I went to law school, so I was a believer in Yellow Pages. And when I got out, the back covers, they used to give the back covers away. I
Yeah.
went to my old bosses and I said, "Hey, can I buy the back covers?" And so everybody's like, "Why would you want to buy the back covers?" I'm like, "Hey, there's a 50-50 chance that people pick up the book and they never open up the book. I'll pay for that."
Especially if
And
you're
so-
looking for an attorney, it's right on the back cover.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I had every back cover all over Florida. Everybody was like, "What? Why is he doing this?" And so I was the first to do buses.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, I have you on today because I want to talk to you about You Can't Teach Hungry. One of my friends recommended the book, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be another lawyer book. We'll see how this goes. I couldn't put down. I said, look, I need to learn from this guy. Turns out we've had one of your employees on before, Mitnick. I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is Mr. Morgan of Morgan and Morgan, of course.
Yeah.
How many attorneys do you have now?
We have, starting this year, we have right at 900. We're looking to hire 200.
Oh.
So we've expanded the last couple of years. We've expanded in big markets: Philadelphia, Boston, New York, DC, LA. So we have a huge need for now, and we're doing a lot of recruiting now. But if you like You Can't Teach Hungry, make sure you read You Can't Teach Vision. That's my second book.
Yeah.
And
Tell me about
I like that one better than You Can't Teach Hungry, to tell you the truth. I call that the PhD version of John Morgan on law.
No, but I mean, you have a lot of great tips. I've heard the Black Swan reference before. What is, I don't know. I feel like sometimes Jeff and I, we kind of think like, oh, we're doing great, and we're kind of pushing it. We kind of have that vision for the next year, but to go from where you were to that many attorneys, not just employees, but attorneys in general, how do you do that? I mean, how do you stay that hungry?
Well, in the book you read the chapter Grow or Die, and I always feel like if you're not growing, you're dying. Sometimes you're growing just to stay in place. But the one thing I would tell you about, don't be discouraged is, you guys look young. Everybody looks young to me now. So you guys look very young. But when I meet young people who say, well, my God, I tell you, I said, remember this. Back in high school, there was freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. The freshmen were, and in college, the same thing. And in your freshman year was your 20s, and your sophomore year is your 30s, and your junior year is your 40s, and your senior year is your 50s. And because we get to stay around a little bit longer because we're older, we actually get to redshirt. I'm in my 60s now, so I'm a redshirt senior. You two guys look like you are redshirt freshmen. I see you all in your 30s, maybe early 40s. So the point of that is, if you're in college and you're a redshirt freshman, but you're still playing on the team, you're scoring a lot of points, you're honorable mention, all county, but you're only a freshman. And so one day, when the seniors are gone, and when the juniors are gone, and even when the sophomores are gone, then you two guys will be seniors. And the reason I tell people to always think about that, because it gives you perspective. Sometimes we're looking at, me, you go, wow. But then I would say to you, how would you like to be 66? You'd say, no fucking way. I'd rather be me. And I look at you, I say, I'd rather be you. So perspective is very important when you're looking at other people. I tell people all the time in law and in life, comparison is the thief of joy. Focus on you. Focus on you and do the best you can do. When you start looking over, remember, when you see some guy driving down in a Lamborghini and a hot chick, the car could be rented and the girl could be rented. Don't get carried away.
That's a great point.
That's true. And those people I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
There's a few that came to our mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since you're in Texas, it's the big hat, no cattle crowd. So we know the big hats with no cattle.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective because you have to really look at what your story is. I mean, I myself, I spent 10 years in the Army before I went to law school, so my path has been totally different. But what I have learned is kind of just what you said. That analogy is so great. The plaintiff's bar is so collaborative. And just these opportunities like right now to share this information and to, like we always talk about, joint venturing with big firms and firms that have this knowledge that they're happy to pour into, the younger, attorneys to get better. And it's great. It's something that we've always enjoyed about this. And I was very surprised.
And by the way, those years in the Army are invaluable. I mean, the lessons and relationships and things you learn there, you'll use it for the rest of your life. And you're a veteran.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there's some things that I'm not very particular about, but because I can tell Jeff has Army training, he's very particular about. So, I think I had to ask you 4 times just in case for furniture changes. Because you're like, no. You don't understand. I'm very particular about certain things. I'm like, all right, and very, very, very detail organized, down to the T. That's the reason why run so well.
Well, the Cav Saber helps for cutting the birthday cakes too. Yeah, absolutely.
One question I have, we started venturing our firm into mass torts, and it's a terrifying field.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, you're so scared of taking L's, taking the losses, moving on. So, the question I have for you is, how do you deal with, I'm sure you're not going in there and batting 1,000. You've got to be taking losses here and there. How do you handle that?
I think what you have to do with mass torts, you have to realize that whenever there's a gold rush, there's a lot of fool's gold. And people a lot of times are rushing off the cliff. And in my business, in my life, the way I approach business, I call it bullets before bombs. Before I decide to go in bombing with bombs, I do a bullet first. And I also think about slivers and slices. I'm a guy that I don't need the whole cake. I could take a piece of cake, a piece of pie. And over time, you add up enough piece of pies, like with mass torts. But I've seen many mass tort people get so excited about money that they follow somebody off the cliff. That person say, come on, get all the cases, borrow the money. They don't care about you. They want you to either get the cases or refer them the cases or whatever. And so the other thing I'd say about mass torts is it's usually a 5, 6, 7, 10-year haul. And then you got to think about, would I be better off? Because the number one thing that what I would tell everybody out there listening is focus is the most important thing. You can only focus on so much. And so you got to think, would I be better off to focus for the next 10 years on expanding my PI business? Would I be rather chasing a mass tort, get to the tail end, pay some lender or lead generator, a bunch of the money? So I would just be judicious about it. I would do it maybe with some people, maybe keep some, learn some, but never forget about fool's gold, because a lot of people get to the end of, even big people, get to the end of these mass torts, and especially if they've borrowed money at 18% interest, the effect of compounding interest is staggering. And a lot of young lawyers go out and borrow money to get mass torts. They get to the end, by the time they do all the math, they owe the bank all the money. And then you've taken away 6, 7, 8 years of your life of focus. So I would just say, do it, but don't try to eat the whole pie, because if you try to eat the whole pie, you may find yourself vomiting for the next 2 years.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right.
That's great advice from a redshirt senior.
I am a redshirt senior, sad to say.
You know, tell me about that coming out of law school mentality. You know, I know that you did well in law school. I'm sure you had at least, there had to be a little piece that you said that I'm going to go and do, you know, some big firm work. What made you say, no, we're going to do plaintiff work and kind of stick with it?
Well, you know, in life, life is mostly luck, good luck, bad luck, but it's all luck. The bad luck for my family was that my brother Tim was paralyzed his senior year of high school. And we were very poor people. And our mother wasn't there. She was gone. Her dad was a drinker. So it was just a bunch of kids. And when my brother got hurt, you know, it was at Disney, and they were really rough on him. They really fought him like he was, you know, a common enemy. And so through that process, I became extremely enraged about how my brother was being treated. And I didn't know what a personal injury lawyer was, but at the end of that whole ordeal, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to come back and get these motherfuckers who have mistreated my brother. And I had some big offers coming out of law school. I wasn't a great student, but I was kind of a political guy. I was like middle of the road. I was always shit on the LSATs and stuff like that. I'm not a good test taker, but I knew what I wanted to do. So there was one guy named Mark Halsey was trying to offer me a huge job at a big firm in Jacksonville. I said, no, all I want to do is this. And so when I came out of law school, I did not go the big firm route. I went straight to a personal injury firm, made like 4 times less than I made selling Yellow Pages, because I was a hell of a Yellow Page seller. I made $71,000 selling Yellow Pages in 1979. And I made $16,000 the first year. So I mean, maybe 5 times. I made $16,000 my first year as a lawyer. But that was okay, because if you know what you want to do, and if you wake up and are ready to do it, you're going to be successful. Because if you don't like what you do, you're going to be terrible. And if you believe in what you do, you can be great. And that's how I became great. I believed it. I wanted to do it. Work was never work. I tell people all the time, if work is work, you're fucked. If you put that key in the ignition and don't like where you're going, do something else. So my brother's bad luck turned out to be my life's work, and very lucky for me.
Is there any time? I'm sure there was times like, I don't know if this is worth doing. Was there like, you know, a trial or a verdict or a time period where you said, "This is it. I did the right thing." This, you know, because I don't know. I felt like in my first year as being a young attorney, I had that imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't know if I'm even any good at this. And then all of a sudden, something kind of changed. I think for me, it was working on a case that I really believed in, but defense counsel made me really think about it twice. And I got a good result. What was it for you?
The case for me was David Vega versus Key Capital Leasing. And what happened, David was an 18-year-old boy pushing a car from behind, a rent-a-car. The car ran out of gas. They were pushing from behind. He got hit from behind. The Key Capital Bank owned the car, Key Capital Leasing. There was only $100,000, but they didn't have insurance. And so because they didn't have insurance, I turned it all on Key Capital. And it was a very, very difficult case. But with David Vega, because he was in a wheelchair, I was looking at my brother. So that case, finally, Key Capital Bank said, okay, we agree with you. We're not tied to the $100,000 cap per statute because the driver had let the insurance lapse. So I broke that. And like 2 days before the trial, they offered me all the money we'd been wanting from the very beginning. And I remember the guy from Lexington Insurance said to me, he goes, John, we don't know if you can try a case or not, but we know you've worked the hell out of this case. And they paid me the money, and it was multiple millions. And to this day, David Vega is still very close to me. We invested his money. He lives a tremendous life. He became an architect. And that was the one case that broke me out, where I had fees of millions of dollars, not to mention all the millions David got. And that case enabled me to start, that David's bad luck became my good luck. And that good luck, I took that money and then I started plowing it into what I'm doing now, the advertising.
Well,
so that was the case.
Yeah, that will do it. That'll definitely do it. How'd you come up with the billboard idea?
Well, back in the day, everybody thought you have to advertise on TV when people are either in the hospital or, at home. My brother Tim, who's in the wheelchair, he became head of my call center later in life. He said he knew our ads were working because he'd be talking to people and he could hear the Andy Griffin song being whistled in the background. So, when we first got out, there was all these shows, Andy Griffin and Petticoat Junction and all these daytime TV shows, and all the lawyers thought you advertise in the morning because that's where people are, they're hurt, and that's where you go. And that was right. But yeah. I thought, what about planting the seed before the injury? It's not immediate gratification, but it's down there. It's a longer play.
Yeah.
And I thought, you put them up there but most people thought it was like, the squirrel. You put the squirrel comes up, scratches the door, the seed falls out. But it was a different way of looking at advertising than lawyers had ever done because they wanted immediate gratification. Andy Griffin goes on, commercial, pick up the phone, call the law firm. I started putting the billboards up to put top of mind in everybody in that community's mind. And now everybody does it.
Yeah. That's an interesting paradigm shift because if you think about it, if you're getting the case signed up after it's happened, there could be a lot of things that go wrong. As we all know, it's best to get somebody immediately before they get the chance to give a recorded statement, before they get the chance to create gaps in treatment because, whatnot.
Or before the defense counsel somehow gets into the hospital has your client sign a release.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, so a lot of people have that argument. I've talked to people and said, they say billboards are not worth it. They're just not. I never get I never get a case from a billboard. But I always thought billboards were more about the branding tool itself. You put your name out there, everybody's going to say, oh, it's that guy. It'll be in their head. And after a while,
what I would say to all those people is, do me a favor, don't ever put up a billboard. Let me have them all.
No, you're right.
You're right. It doesn't fucking work. Take them down.
So what's the next path for you? I mean, what is it? What's the next thing for Mr. Morgan going forward?
The thing for me going forward is every year I have 3 goals. Some years I have what I call the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, the one that's just so gigantic. And one of those goals I had years ago was called the Google Law Firm. What would Google do if it was a law firm? And my answer was it would be everywhere for everybody. It would be the first national firm in America. It would be easy to contact. Everything. It would be more of a tech company than a law firm. It'd be a tech company that law was the product. And so for the last 10 years, I've been building the Google Law Firm. Part of building the Google Law Firm is I had to build my own software called Litify. And Litify powers the Google Law Firm. I refer out a week about 1,000 cases to lawyers across the country. And part of the vision of the Google Law Firm was handle a lot of cases, but also refer a lot more out than I handle. And so the vision of the Google law firm is this platform for America in every state, in every city. And if I'm not there, you guys are there. And when the case comes to me and I'm not venued there, I send it to you off the Litify platform. You sign it up in 30 minutes, and I just flood you with cases forever and ever. And that's what's next for me. And I'm in the process right now of full bore into the Google law firm. That's why I went to Philadelphia, then Boston, then New York, then Los Angeles. I've already got the South pretty well done. I went to DC, St. Louis. So that's what's next for me. I'm lucky. I've got 3 children, 3 sons that are lawyers, so they're very active in the business. Each one of them has a different role in the firm, and they execute pretty good. So I would say that the Google law firm is what's next for me, and probably my final act in law. It'll either be great or it'll be bust. But so far, it's exceeded all of my expectations. I mean, obviously, I'm hiring 200 lawyers this year.
Yeah, you got a pretty good batting average. So.
Yeah, but I've had losses. Believe me, I've lost. I
mean, I've got to ask. You're doing so much fees. You're doing all these things, and so now the idea is to basically make this mega firm that can reach nationally. How did you sit down and say that's it? That's what I want?
Well, I said it because I look at Uber, I look at Amazon, I look at these national platforms and say, what's the difference between them and me? And what is it that they did right? And what they did right was they made it easy. You go to, if you want to go buy some Uggs, you don't go to the Uggs platform. You go to Amazon.
Right.
Why do you go to Amazon? It's easy. If you go to Uggs, you're in there typing in, you're at Uggs, you're putting in your credit card, your new address. You're like, fuck that. I just go to Amazon and buy the Uggs. If you want to Uber, I mean, if you're trapped, would you ever call a cab in a million years?
No.
Never. Would you even get in a cab for that matter? But why Uber? So I look at those disruptors, and I love disruption. I look at all of it, Netflix, everything, and I go, what they did is they built a national platform that was easy for the consumer, and then their services were exemplary. And when you look at my verdicts, no firm in America gets the verdicts I get. I'll pay anybody listening here that's got more verdicts than me last year. I'll pay PI verdicts. I'll pay them $100,000 because nobody gets more verdicts than me. You go to my website, you can look at the offers and then the verdicts. So you got to deliver. If you're Amazon and we're ordering the fucking Uggs don't show up, or showed up chewed up by the dog, you ain't calling Amazon. Now you're on there. You're going back to Uggs. So I've been inspired by Google. And by the way, when Uber started, Google's their maps. So Google and Uber, it's consistency. And what I think is what the consumer wants, they want consistency. They want excellent Uber drivers, and they want efficiencies and speed. They want it easy. So I'm in the process of it. I mean, yesterday I signed up 600 PI cases and referred out like 200. And so, right now it's working.
It's definitely working.
It's an incredible scale. I got to think that the team you have of advisors and people that are really feeding, it sounds like the information they're feeding you is top notch too. I mean, right at the tip of your fingertip to know those kind of stats. This is what I did yesterday at that level is incredible.
It's crazy.
Well, the people that work, my tech center is in Brooklyn, New York. I have some of the smartest people there. I mean, there's people on my staff, not non-lawyers, who make over $1 million a year. I've hired people from Google, from Amazon. I mean, my top tier people are really not lawyers. They're business people. And so the tech center is in Brooklyn, New York. And that's where our team is. And every day we're just tweaking to get it better and better and better and less seamless. And so.
And that's exactly what I was going to say is that I think I've heard a podcast of yours where you said that none of your management, well, not none, but most of them are non-attorneys. And that kind of hit me for a second, but then you explained it and you're like, why would you hire an attorney to do business? You hire a business person to do that and let the attorney do what they know what to do.
And especially,
think about that?
In this digital age, I mean, we're out there, lawyers don't know how the internet works. Lawyers don't know about YouTube and social media. Lawyers, we know some things, but we don't know those things.
Yeah, I had a client come in the other day and her 3-year-old, it was on TikTok making like a really nice video, and I was like, I couldn't even start that. I couldn't even start that process. I was this 3-year-old just beat me at TikTok.
I'm out here. I'm at my house in Maui, and I just dropped my grandchildren off to go home, but they're walking around here, with iPads and iPhones and turning on TV. One last night, 6-year-old, I said, "What are you watching?" "Well, YouTube." I don't know how to fucking turn YouTube on the TV. I mean, he's over there, I'm watching YouTube. I'm like, wow. But even though I don't know how to do YouTube, I got people who know YouTube. The most important thing, the luckiest thing for me is I understand what I don't know. The most dangerous person in the world is the person who thinks they know everything and don't know shit. Because that person will march you right off the cliff. The good news for me is I am self-aware of my pros and my cons. And when I don't know something, I go get people who do. When Rockefeller built his oil companies, people ask him, "Well, you're not a scientist." He said, "No, I hire scientists." He was just a bookkeeper. I'm just a bookkeeper.
That's great.
Yeah, that's very good. One last thing, because I do try to keep our podcast a little bit shorter. One piece of advice for young attorneys. First 2 years out of law school. What advice would you?
First thing I'd tell them is this: do what you want to do, not what you have to do. If you went to med school and at the end of the med school they told you, "Hey, you're going to be a proctologist," you're like, "What? I'm gonna have my finger up people's asses for the rest of my career?" No, go do what you want to do. And whatever you do, pick a niche. When you think about great lawyers, the ones who have the most defined niche, like in your community, I guarantee if I said, "Who's the best DUI lawyer in that town?" You got a name. Yep. Who's the best criminal defense lawyer? Who would you call for bankruptcy? You got a name. The more specialized you are, the better you're going to do. The smaller your niche, the better you're going to do. And focus, focus, focus. Because without focus, nothing matters.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I think that the only challenge to that is figure out what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you know what you want to do.
I mean, you talk to one now, the first thing I want to do, I want to do corporate law. Why? Because I just think I would be so good at it. Why? It's because of the money, right? That's not why. Actually figure out what you want to do. Spend the time and figure it out.
They all want to be sports agents. I mean, there's more sports agents than sports players. There's 750 Major League Baseball players and probably 2,000 sports lawyers. But look, don't let that discourage you either, because somebody's got to be Scott Boras. Mm-hmm. So you got to dare to be great too. And so competition can be daunting, but when you think of the competition, go back to the beginning. Freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, red shirt senior year. And when you do that, you say, hey, I got 40 years.
That's true. I never thought of it that
So
way.
go be great.
Always rushing.
Don't be, listen, you got 40 years. From the time you get out of law school, you got 40 years. And then figure out what it is you like. But if you don't like it, I mean, like I said, how'd you like to be a proctologist? There's a lot of lawyers who effectively are proctologists.
Right.
They're sitting there with something called billable time, which to me is like looking up an asshole. I mean, if I had to have a billable time sheet, that would be like proctology for me.
Yep. I feel like you asked a proctologist, how's your day? Shitty.
Exactly. All right, fellas, I'm going to go take my walk.
Thank you so much.
Peace.